Hello, and welcome, ladies and gents. We are live back again with another episode of Two and a Half Talent. You know the drill. We've been doing this now for God knows, like 3 years, probably at least. So you should know how it runs by now. But if you don't, my name's Neokai, joined by Trav, joined by Paladin, as we're going to be talking about some of the upcoming Counter-Strike stuff or ongoing Counter-Strike stuff, starting, of course, with PGL. Before we get into all of that, fellas, it's been last one we did was just after HTV Awards, so it's been about a month roughly, maybe just shy of since our last episode. So what have you been up to, Trav? Want to kickstart us? What's new?
Well, it's been again just trying to do a lot of online work. I've been lucky enough to do the IEM Rio and the IEM Atlanta close qualifiers for ESL. I'll get on to maybe a bit more about that later in one of our later subjects in the podcast. How I feel fortunate to be able to do both of those qualifiers. I went to the IEM Krakow watch party with you, Nao, and lots of other people, of course, that we know from the scene. Very enjoyable, and just getting a chance to see everyone, watch a game, have what was it like a fiver between £5 and £10 if you got the discount or not. A
Yeah,
fiver for a ticket, which gets you food, which is like pizza or ice cream, and like 2 free drinks, which is like
yeah,
in London that's an absolute steal, isn't it? So
yeah. Pizza and ice
um,
cream, technically, and
yes,
brownies.
exactly. It was
Yeah.
very very nice and
Plus
great to see
giveaways.
everyone. Giveaways, free stuff. Your girlfriend got a free monitor.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
and a
Again,
Battlefield code as well. She won
and a
two.
Battlefield code.
Yeah,
Again, that's like 2 years in a row where my a close friend of mine has gotten like the
yeah.
main prize and not me. It
Mental.
is what it is. But yeah, all that was all good stuff. I've done Henry and Dinko's podcast as well that they
Mm-hmm.
do together. I think it's called The Post Plant. That was a really fun episode that I did with them. I also played squash with your girlfriend as well,
There you
which
go.
was pretty fun.
There you
Need
go.
to do more of that. And I need to get Neo into the squash court right now
Yeah,
to give him a game. It's important to me. We have got to get it done.
I'm
And
down. As long
yeah,
as we can do a paddle game afterwards.
of course, of course. Well, pretty
Yeah,
much the same thing. You can just
yeah.
hit see ball, hit ball, hit it hard. You know,
That's it.
so
That's it.
all good.
Annie, what about you? What's new?
Listen, jokes aside, I think tennis is far superior than either one of those. So we should all join each other in the tennis courts instead. So
Hell
that'll be a
yeah.
lot of fun. But
Whatever it
yeah,
is.
yeah. I mean that aside, I have been up to CCT as usual. It's always been a stalwart for us, and I'm glad it's still around. Quality of
We'd be
CCT
fucked
NA
without it.
games. Yeah, we would. So glad that's there. Got to do a
Shut
couple of
up.
games of the IM Atlanta qualifiers. Also pretty fun. It feels very weird that we have the Americas and like the global qualifiers. Like I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
still taking some getting used to, but yeah, still fun nevertheless. Got to watch Steel play in the server, so that was interesting. I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to do that before, so that was cool. Not as exciting as I expected it to be, but hey, you know, can't ask for too much these days. But yeah, did revival series last weekend, and that's always again another super important thing to the North American scene. Really enjoyed doing
Mhm.
that, and I think that was the last series that is planned for right now. So that was like a nice send off as well. All things said, and then it's Oscar season, or at least it's like around that time. So
Mm.
I've been catching up on a lot of the Oscar nominations and what have you before March. So that's been a lot of fun. That's something that I do kind of in my free time. So
Nice.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
I was gonna ask, with Revival Series, is that in partnership with Rivalry?
No, it's with Prize Picks.
Oh, okay. Because I saw all the recent
Yeah,
stuff about Rivalry
yeah,
basically
yeah,
laying off a
yeah.
bunch. I wasn't sure if that was maybe why it was this last one.
Well, I think it's because it's complexity that runs it as well,
Right, of
and
course.
because they're kind of like defunct now, it's tough to keep it going. But
R.I.P.
I know that, yeah. But I know that like Flom is still very heavily involved with a lot of stuff, and
Mm.
the land was super successful, so
Yeah,
it's
the
not
Las
over
Vegas
just
one,
yet.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, sponsors are happy, and I think things are looking up in that direction. So all's not over yet in North America. I think we're just kind of getting started.
Yeah, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. On my side, got yeah, obviously last sort of month or so since we did one of these, bunch of online kind of casting, which is always good. Always kind of keeps taking over CCT. bit of Challenger League, ESL Challenger League, stuff like that. Did IM Krakow for a few days with Harvey, which was it was good laugh. It was good fun to kind of get involved once again in that. Currently actually in the process now of turning this sort of setup I've got at the moment into like a home studio setup. So I've got the mics on their way, and I'm trying to make it a bit of a home studio. So maybe I can have like Harvey, or potentially if we ever do any casting together, more likely Trav, we can do it from mine. You're around the corner from me, so that could work quite nicely. But yeah, that's kind of currently my side. I don't think there's really too much to update outside of that. I think it's just been ticking over. I've recently just been like encumbered by the Arc Raiders grind. I was very late to the party there, but it's now taken over my life for the last week or so. But mainly because of another streamer called the Burnt Peanut. I love that little peanut and what he plays. So
I've heard about this guy.
He's so funny, dude. He's so funny. So yeah, that's been kind of the main thing for me. But we can kind of get straight on the way and start talking about Cluj, which is currently ongoing. We just had Furia Paravision concluded. So games are now done for the day, set for tomorrow, which is the last day of like the group play, which would be quite interesting. Got the 2-3 games and the 3-2 game. Oh, the 2-2 games to find out the 3-2 teams and the 2-3 teams, which should be pretty exciting. So we can kind of bring that up and go kind of talking about that. So far, I don't want to say there's been like massive upsets in like who's been eliminated. You got Heroic, Bait, FaZe, Pain, and 3D Max out. For the most part, like most of these don't surprise me that much. Like Bait, it's kind of like where we expect them to be. Heroic, of course, rather Orpa. For those who missed my quote unquote viral tweet, courtesy of some random bloke on HLTV, Heroic apparently have or Heroic or Alcarin, one of the two, or maybe a combination of both, have kind of fucked up his visa situation. So it seems like, especially from what more I've heard, is like basically his visa process is cooked to the point where like he can't enter the Schengen now for 2 years, which is rough. And Heroic apparently got lawyers involved, as per that comment on HLTV, to try and fix it. But it might be a case of where I think he's like someone was telling me on Twitter or something that he like tried to enter the Schengen on an expired visa, didn't realize it was expired. I think everyone had assumed it wasn't, is my understanding, or you'd hope so at least. Tried to enter the Schengen, expired visa, because it was expired, you basically then gets banned for 2 years. Is like kind of part of it. It's like similar to like when you go to the US or whatever, right? And you go on like a visa you're not allowed to, you just get banned from going into the US. So if you do like your ESTA wrong, I think it's essentially the same vibe with that. So that's pretty rough for them. Obviously, they've been playing with youngsters. Doesn't really like surprise me that much that they're out in 12th, 14th. Bait as well. Maybe you can make arguments for FaZe, but FaZe have been so below par that I'm like not even shocked really at all. And all the teams that kind of have made it past them, I'd actually value a lot more in a sense. Pain have looked shite for 6 months plus. So again, doesn't surprise me. The only one that maybe is a bit of an argument is 3D Max and Dead Last. Not even getting a map. That is, I kind of expect some more 3D Max. Last year was looking pretty good for them. You know, finals for CAC, making deepish runs in like tier 1 and tier 1.5 tournaments where they actually looked like, with Gravity calling, it was starting to click. That team felt and looked a lot more aggressive. But yeah, that's the teams who got eliminated so far. And we've got the matches. Obviously, Vitality and Falcons already through in 3-0. In 3-1, we got Maus, Mongols, and Furia. None of those really are too much of a surprise. We also could talk about a bit about Cobra Zero, who looks a lot better now. First tournament for him was really, really rough. But from now on, actually looks pretty good. Or like from this tournament, he's looked pretty good. And then tomorrow's matches, we got Aurora Astralis, Foot Paravision, and Navi G2 to see winners of those three, of course, be making it through. So yeah, spicy so far. But I don't know about you guys, but not really surprising by any means.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you go first, Anna. You go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the FaZe thing is more interesting to me with just the fact that the losses as to who they went up against. I mean, the Paravision lost, it makes sense. You know, those guys are hot. Falcons, no problem. But I think the loss against Astralis really hurts. And it's just the fact that it didn't really look close at any point. And I don't know. I think there's some sort of energy that is just sapped out of this team. It reminds me a lot of like Virtus Pro, like Polish Virtus Pro, like way back in the day, where they'd be like silent for a long period of time. They'd be kind of gatekeepers for better teams. And then when the majors would come around, they would have a little bit of a run and they would show what their true form is, and then they would kind of like die down. Eventually, the way that ended up was it was an ugly breakup pretty much on all ends. You know, you had your players go in their separate directions, and we never really saw that kind of energy out of those players ever again. So I'm fearing that that's kind of the way that we're going, and we're just like very slowly going there.
Yeah.
I wish somebody would have the wherewithal to just rip the band-aid and make a decision, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, like these guys are in such storied positions that they're never going to do something that drastic. So it looks like now at this point we just have to wait till Cologne's over before
Yes.
anything really happens, and that
Yeah.
is it's always a bummer to me when I see this roster and I know that it's all just like smoke and mirrors when they get that deep major run, and we're not going to get it again. And it's happened for like 3 cycles now.
Yeah, it's a sad one, isn't it? The same, because I completely echo your thoughts about the old VP. Like, me, you, and Brian in particular, one of our friends,
Yep.
big fans of the old VP from back in the day. It reads very similar. A legendary team that the core, in VP's case, the whole five, but the core of FaZe sticking together for a very long time. They had all this, prestige. They had all these major runs. FaZe continuing to, you have to remind yourself that they were part of both major finals last year somehow, and well, not exactly, but you know what I mean. Like part of decent major runs in both majors last year somehow. It looked like they were going to be nowhere. And yeah, it does feel like it's a slow death for them right now. Now they've lost some of their individuals and their identity. You mentioned the loss to Astralis. That was just like, you should be one, beating them, and two, if you're losing to them, fighting.
Yeah.
In the major cycles, they would fight. They would show some of what the DNA of what has made FaZe. In non-major cycles now, non-major tournaments, they are just clearly like almost a dead team walking in a way. And the problem is there's not really anything out there that truly fixes them, which is the most worrying part. You could argue there are some, why didn't they go in for Senzu? Why didn't they go in for that player? Why didn't they go in for this player? But yeah, I think really the only supposed surprise is that they went 1-3. But for me, I still think that it's also not so much of a surprise, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird spot, like with FaZe. Like it doesn't feel like there's a clear change. Like, a lot of people still call for Brokey's head, but like it's just at the moment, like who do you actually put in a spot? I know we've got a decent amount of like talented AWPers, but like they're talented AWPers that are, coming through that tier 2, but there's still a risk inherently. And Brokey, we've already seen they've taken them out and they did get worse, right? So I don't know. It's a weird spot for me. I really don't know what this team does, but yeah, I think you're right. It's like post Cologne, something's got to change. I can't see the start of this year being good really at all. I don't really know what you do. You immediately, right? I think it might just be kind of like survival until Cologne, and then post Cologne trying to kind of remedy that situation. But man, it's not an easy fix by any means. But a flip side as well in terms of like positive notes, like. Really good to see how good Falcons are looking. They looked back to being like really, really solid. Like, especially getting both m0NESY and Kaisuke, both just looking so unbelievably sharp. Like, if you keep getting those guys playing as good as they are, you don't even need to call on Nico as much, which is a real kind of nicety in a sense. Like, he could, like, I've seen people talk about it already, but like the only upgrade you can talk about for Falcons, if you got Nico as a caller and brought in someone else, I think Thorin tweeted it, which is quite good. Like, he was like, his number one team was like, if you like take out Kixan, make Nico call, bring in Bit, bring in Frozen. It's like, like that team then starts to cook. Granted, probably not going to happen, right? But like, it's a nice kind of like thought piece in a sense.
Could.
But, yeah,
It
true.
could. They've got the money.
They got the
money.
money.
They could.
Technically speaking, they can do it. But it's good to see them looking competitive and being like a cool team to watch. They're playing some quite exciting CS. Mongols, like I mentioned, them actually being back to being competitive, because that first run out for them really wasn't good with Cobra's era, but this has been a lot better. He looks a lot more comfortable in terms of like where his positions are and how he's playing. I don't think he's like a Senzu replacement, but it's a decent little kind of makeshift from basically the only other player in that region that's worthwhile picking up for them. And the other thing for me is like, you look at some of these 2-2 games, like it's so annoying the way they've lined up, because you've got like Aurora, Astralis, where like I don't really care if either of those two make it through to the next stage. But then you've got like Foot and Paravision, where I want both of those teams to make it through, which is actually quite annoying.
They are the hot teams, aren't they, that we want to see do well. So. Yeah,
man, Foot are so sick, and I love seeing this team continue to be competitive. Again, they're a side where like I think they're like one change away from being like legitimately like a top 5 team. Like, that's how good they're playing. Like,
just an upgrade,
you change Symmetry,
and you're good.
Exactly. Yeah. You get a better AWPer than Symmetry and you are cooking. And I've seen a variety variety of the names flown around, but like one of which is very good was Regali. Feels like kind of a nice upgrade. It's like a very aggro combat style AWPer that honestly feels like he would just slot into this team so perfectly. And also, you know, that relationship he's already got with Launx as well feels like it would be quite a synonymous fix. And now being on the bench, I don't know how long until he's a free agent, but I can't imagine it being that long. Like that would actually just generally be for me quite perfect.
And also, what I like about that as well is that like you don't have a secondary Romanian star like Launex who's had that process of thinking like he's the next big thing, it not happening for him, and then maybe, you know, having a second chance in his career, which is really good for him. The weird thing with Symmetry is I agree, like especially in even in tier 2 games, there's more than multiple situations where it's very clear he's not good enough. At the moment, he doesn't have the X factor, but not sure many AWPers that would be available, maybe other than a Regalia, which I still think is a bit of like only an ever so slight upgrade.
Yeah.
At this point, for some unknown reason, whenever I've watched Foot playing these tier 1 games, which I've obviously been keeping a very close eye on them, knowing from how much but all of us have followed them in their very early careers, Symmetry looks better playing its tier 1 players than he does playing its tier 2, which is, I don't know why that is. Maybe it's the LAN thing, but he's acceptable right now, at least, which is one of the main things that's helping, you know, Foot really increase their sort of status in tier 1 events. As you say, they are very, very close to being elite. They just need to get over their choking issue. I mean, they were, what, 12-3 up on Mouse today? I think they were 12-3 up and lost them up to 16-12 or something ridiculous. If they get overcut, like, the thing that makes me, like, confident in them and happy to see them just take their time, that's all they need. I know it's obviously kind of sound like a broken record when you say this about teams, but they only need time right now. They are so young. It's almost like how Mongols, when they first came through and started making deep runs, that they're still young now. They're even younger back then. Foot just need experience, and if they make playoffs, getting arena experience, that'll be a huge step for them. And, you know, as you say, it's a shame it's versus Paravision. I'd love to see both of them in arena. We need to see that next stage of the progression for these probably two best teams to explode from tier 2 over the last however few months. Shame they can't both make it, but at least one of them will.
Yeah, I mean,
the best part about I would say the best part for Foot is that they'll have many opportunities now. I mean, like they're far up in the rankings at this point that they'll get a lot of invites, and if time is what they need, which I tend to agree, it probably is the name of the game for them at this point. But if they have that time, then it's just a matter of, I think, more so them like getting over the hump. It's more like them potentially even realizing what is the issue, and you know, maybe if they realize, okay, look, we are just an opera away, then maybe they can make that decision a little faster than you might think. The other problem is like you don't necessarily know how much money they have in their back pocket as an org and how much pull that they have, just off the nature of where they're ranked. So that'll be interesting to see if they, I mean, I think they have enough pull to get Regali for sure, but like if Regali isn't an option, like you're not punching up in any way, right? So you're gonna have to you're gonna have to take a chance on like a flyer, like a money ball type situation, and that, I think that'll be difficult because a lot of these operas right now are like side grades or like just okay, which like I don't think if you're Foot, you want an okay opera, like you already have that. So I don't know.
Yeah, just very briefly before I let you chime in there, just what I think about like their sort of situation and what I'm really happy about is how early on they realized they had something special with this 5. Mikaze or not, you've managed to resurrect Laurinex's career. Krebeni was like, look, we've got something special as a core here. We're going to stick together. That's kind of rare in CS in general, let alone in modern day CS, right? Like if players get offers, even if they pretty expensive, which I'm sure some of these Foot players are, I think the Foot organization almost certainly are pretty smart, realizing what they've got under their org, and probably putting at least decent price tags on these players. I'm just glad they stuck together, which is my main point, which is not many teams do. And clearly that progression and synergy they've got is already getting them places, despite this occasional choke they're showing at the moment.
I gotta credit Navi for actually admiring their wishes and like putting them up for sale, because there are some orgs there that would be a little bit more selfish and hold on to them for as long as possible so they can see who they could promote. But yeah, moving them was smart for them, I'm sure, because now they have a little bit more buying power, obviously trying to buy out Senzu recently. maybe
Yeah.
not high enough of a buyout, but it is what it is.
Well, I guess also as well, like one thing I was talking about with a couple of mates was saying like I would be very surprised if Navi don't have a buyback, right? Like it feels like these days the way contracts are as well. Like I would be so surprised if they don't have a buyback on this side. And like, Demon alone obviously is, as the namesake says, like he is just like a mini bit in that way. Like he's so fucking sharp. I mean, he has the highest headshot percentage of any professional player ever. He's got a higher headshot percentage than Scream on average. Last year, I think Scream averaged across his career like 68% or something, and Demon was like 69.5 or 2025. Like that is mental. Like it's so fucking good. You got Jugas as well, who is obviously like another incredible talent. I also think like I don't think he gets enough plaudits, but I think Krebeni is such a good caller, and also on top of being a good caller,
Individual is so good.
Yeah,
too,
he's such a good fragging IGL. Like that for me is like what makes like this team like really really tick. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the side. Obviously we were talking about kind of like them picking up players, but the other option is like, is there a world in which some of them get bought? Is the other thing. Now I know. Rumor is, and this was on the HTV Confirmed podcast, they were talking about it, and so that the rumor is that about 500k each is their buyout. So obviously it's pretty spenny, but it's pretty spenny. But at the same time, like considering some of the buyouts we have seen, like 500k for someone like Demon doesn't actually seem outlandish. It doesn't seem like ridiculous, to be perfectly honest. Like he's so good, can play in a variety of positions, and he's like so self-sufficient that I feel like he would slot into most teams anyway. That like. I wouldn't be surprised, like, post-major if teams, like, start sniffing around, right? Like, this team as a whole, like, trying to pick them apart. It's whether they actually can stick together.
I hope they get Cologne together, and then we'll see where the talent takes them, right?
You could see if Falcons fall apart in Cologne, there's a world where that they could pick them up. I mean, that doesn't look like a high buyout for them at all. If Mals want to breathe a little bit more aggression or young star talent into their team, that's a possibility. I mean, hell, I could even see like Paravision taking a flyer on him. I don't know. Like
Well, we were
never
just
know.
talking about FaZe, right? Like,
Yeah, it could be
like,
phase 2. Yeah.
FaZe need players of competent ability, and like it feels like you've got kind of like, and especially if like they eventually do, like, I the way I was kind of like, think tanking this the other day, but like I don't know if you guys remember, like a couple of years ago we were talking about, I think this was like around the time of like Blast Paris Major and that Gamer Legion run. The conversation that was kind of floating around was like, is it time for Carrigan to move on and like retire? And in doing so, this would be the prime time for Shuhei, right? That's what everyone was talking about. Shuhei being like, right, is he going to be this next kind of caller to kind of like get that big step up to like a kind of a storied organization? But like on the, that conversation still remains. Like, can Manus Carrigan plus Krebeni, I don't think is even a crazy thing to be saying, right? It's a completely different kind of setup for this side, and it also feels like it would, especially in terms of firepower, obviously be an upgrade, because Krebeni's so good, especially in terms of like his entrying. He's like kind of like what Carrigan was like, a little bit of a ways back, but it just feels like there's pieces there to pick up. And I mean, the way things are panning now, you got this foot side who are 14th ranked in the world, you got FaZe who are like 7th ranked in the world. I would be so surprised by the time we get to Cologne if those rankings haven't flipped, basically. If you don't see foot inside of the top 10 and FaZe outside of the top 10 with how bad the showing has been. So would that be kind of like a worthy move in a way for them? I don't know. It's kind of exciting, but like, obviously you want the team to stick together because they're so exciting right now, but that's real rose tinted glasses. Realistically, I would be so surprised if teams aren't already starting to kind of like circle and see like what these buyouts are looking like, what loan deals are looking like, see if they can make trade offers and whatnot, and go from there. But if Foot can keep on to them, this is going to be a really exciting team. And then obviously, go on.
I was just going to say, do you remember all that time ago when Laurenex was on Sprout? And I think he said something, was it even an interview to you? He said to you, like, my dream is to play for FaZe or something.
Oh yeah,
that
was on my channel. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he said that to you. And I was like, oh well, his career's kind of gone off the beaten path now. When he was on Falcons and all these other small teams like Nexus or whatever, and he's come back and now he's playing like we know he probably could have played in Tier 1 all that time ago. So who knows? Maybe he will get his dream. Who knows?
Yeah, I kind of love that as well. Falcons and all these other small teams. Yeah, get them, Trav. Let them know. But no, you're actually all right. And then on the other side as well for Paravision, also just cool to see the side continue this incredible run. Right? Obviously, trophy to start the year, and then there was a kind of like a 50-50 split of like, is it like a lot of people saying like one-off not a lot of teams basically, which is we know is true, don't really prac for bounty. They use that as like their like first real prac after the Christmas break, and it's a bit of like a warm up into the year. And for the most part, teams don't really care that much about bounty. That's like not exactly a hidden fact by any means. But Paravision, for the most part, have continued to still look quite competitive, still look quite good. Now, granted, obviously they're not like, you know, instant running for trophies in every tournament, but already what we're seeing from this team, it's like a team like, you know, they're inside of the top 10, yeah, 5th ranked in the world in Valve right now. I mean, like, they are still in a really interesting spot for me where it's like there's enough to like about this team that they are just becoming a pretty standard like stalwart of the of like the tier 1. Obviously I am Krakow wasn't great when they made their way into what like the kind of like stage 2 or whatever, like they, you know, waltzed through stage 1 and then did nothing at stage 2. But even still, right, this is a team that still feel like, for me, like super competitive, and I kind of value watching them over value watching like teams like your Phasers and your Charlotters. I mean, maybe even arguments for your Navis of the world as well. So it's still cool to see that we get our tier 2 stalwarts or like ex stalwarts still looking really good, and also the fact that for this tournament as well, Foot are actually a replacement team. So if they end up making to the playoffs, because they replace Legacy, right? So if they end up making it towards the playoffs, that would actually be quite a cool story. In the same vein, I saw someone like mention it was like, you know, Legacy obviously got that for Austin. They were stood in for Bestia. Bestia couldn't get the visas. Throwback to that drama, incredible work. Shout out that org owner. That was some lightning CS Twitter days. But it's kind of like a similar vein. Like if Foot end up coming to this tournament, go to playoffs, it doesn't really matter what they do in playoffs. Just the fact that they get there, for being a stand-in team that didn't really get the time to prep for this tournament specifically, it was pretty last-minute call-up. That would be awesome in itself. So as a whole, pretty exciting. I guess we can sort of, I don't know if there are any other topics you want to talk about, really. Like all the rest of it for me sort of like makes sense. But I was going to say, should we make our predictions for the 2-2 games?
Yeah, I'll just say very, very lightly on Paravision that same vein as Foot, by the way. Like, I think Paravision have got that, you know, they've got the Wise ahead of Jamin and Dastan behind them, so maybe they'll get there a bit quicker. They've kind of already been there. Both these two teams, because they're so high ranked now, they're going to have the right people in the org behind them to pick and choose events correctly to help their progression. And also, they both, as a not Jame and maybe not Astan because they've been there, done that, and obviously we know Paravision have lived on boot camp, which is another reason why it's maybe a little bit more easier for them, maybe. But they both these two teams have to learn how to deal with the stresses and strains of world travel and being a professional CS player, going to LAN after LAN. Like for these young guys, especially for Foot, who are like, you know what, at team average age is 19 or whatever, like that is one of the big things that they need to learn and grasp about how to avoid burnout and all the above, right? Because burnout is a killer. And as we've seen with multiple players and teams over the years, it can just completely halt your progression. So that is the two. It's actually one of the reasons why this Foot versus Paravision game is not just a shame. It's also just, I think, a fun game because one of these two will get playoffs. One of them will get a chance to have a bit of time off and a bit more of a break. And yeah, they both need to learn how to deal with all what comes with being a professional CS player. And that's a fun thing to watch, I think.
Yeah. And I think learning how to peak over time, because the season is a long one, and I mean we've seen a lot of teams that have faltered at the major after having such a great run of form leading up to it. I mean, I think about Aurora is probably the best example that I could use. Is that, you know, you're top 4 at multiple tournaments, you're expected to potentially be a dark horse at the major, and you fall apart in like what, stage 2. I don't even think they made stage 3 in some of those situations. So it's something that you have to learn basically through failure. So I hope that I think Paravision are definitely much better off as opposed to Foot with Coolio, who he himself is still learning on how to actually approach that role, and it is still like learning on how to be like a kind of father figure mentor for those players. I think for Paravision, it's like, yeah, you could probably do another move, a much easier move to replace anybody you want. My thinking is probably Beltranok, but either way, like I think that they have a much easier time of figuring out this whole process because you've got Jamin and Dastan. For Foot, it's like you're gonna have to deal with maintaining this level of form, holding on to all 5 of these players, and then also not getting burnt out, even if you are able to keep all 5 of these players. So it's like a really weird situation for a team that is as successful as it is, that they have to go up against all of these hardships coming forward in like the next 3 to 4 months. So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think the foot conversation will be very interesting. Like once we're done with Cologne, how that team looks and feels.
Yeah, no, pretty valid. Predictions then, we got start with Aurora Astralis. How are we feeling about this one? I
That's coin
personally,
flip because
yeah,
if Xantares and Wicadia come to play, Aurora win that game. They have more firepower than Astralis right now,
yeah.
but there's worlds in which Hooksy can do Hooksy things and
Like I say,
manipulate the veto
Astralis have a
and look
better
good.
IGL, arguably. So it's
Yes.
like mind over
Yeah.
matter, really, in a sense.
I'll take
I think I'll
Aurora.
take a I'll take Astralis. I think. I really do like Hooksy a lot more than I do Major, and that is, I think, is the biggest testing point for me. And then off of the back of that, Fuzi and Ryu have been like serviceable, and like Ryu in some situations has been good. So
Yeah.
I feel like the firepower issue isn't necessarily there. There's no pressure on players like Yabi and Stair to really perform in this kind of environment. I mean, there is no pressure on Astralis period right now. This is still like a testing period for them. And I think for Aurora, you're already on the hot seat. You've had some
Mm,
pretty bad losses over these few months that have that started out with Soulfly. And yes, they've improved over time, but I still think that Astralis right now, they've got everything to play with. And beating Face handedly as you do, I think you carry that momentum and they went out.
yeah, yeah. I think it's tough. I think if I'm gonna go for like kind of like just where my head's leaning, I wanna assume that we get the best out of the likes of Xantares and Wicadia, so I might slightly lean Aurora. I like what this Astralis project is bringing to the table. It's just about consistency for me. Like it's just like if you do see Ryugo missing, that rifling core then doesn't look as maybe serviceable as the backup options of what Aurora have got. Like it
Very
always
true.
feels like we do get like the consistency. And I will say Soulfly is looking a lot more
He is.
sharp, right? Like
He's
granted,
improving. Yeah.
first instance towards this team, I was very worried. It was not a nice look. But I will say, like from the recent games we've been seeing, it's a lot more like it of like kind of like what we expect out from him. Like I thought he looked really solid against the likes of Bait. I thought that was a really really solid one from him. So yeah, if we get him playing to that level, I do think maybe Aurora
And
just might have a bit more firepower working for them. That kind of just
he doesn't need to be
brute
that
force
guy.
their way. Yeah.
Exactly, and Soulfly doesn't need to be that guy. Like we know that eventually Jota was in roles that he wasn't loving, right?
Yeah.
On that team. So that was a thing mentioned by Woxic in an interview, I think. So yeah, Soulfly is obviously in tough positions, but he's played them before. He's played under Major before. I think if there's one guy who knows what skill set Soulfly has and can exploit it, it will be Major. Even though we know Major is still under fire for many reasons. So
Yeah.
there's no one better in Turkey to replace him as an in-game leader. It's simple as that. We don't want to bring back Imor or fucking whoever to this team to try an in-game lead, right? Like
Alex.
just leave him alone. Major knows how to get the best out of these individuals at the moment. And like you could argue if they go international one day, maybe they could go from strength to strength, but it's just not going to happen. So let it be. Soulfly's improving in these tough positions, and if he just does an okay job and you've got all the others playing well, they should make the odd playoff here and there. But that's always it's a big if. The other day they had to win a map, and when they won on one of their Anubises, I can't remember against who it was, but it took like Xantares and Woxic going insane to win their favorite map by far. So
Agreed.
that's a big worry.
Well, we then follow that with Navi G2, another one that's actually in a way kind of hard to predict in a sense, but I think for me, I'm probably just gonna lean Navi here.
Yeah, I think I'll go in the same direction as well. I think there's this huge issue that I have with G2, and I think that's Sun Pius. I think I was a big
Agreed.
like proponent of him on heroic and him getting the call up to G2, but he's just felt like the magic is gone with this player, where like it feels like he's kind of just going through his paces, and I'm not exactly sure what the change should be, and I really expected somebody like Saw to figure out how to use Senpais effectively, but he just doesn't have that for me anymore. I think Blade is still the most serviceable guy that you could ask for in situations like this, where you're going up against an inexperienced IGL and a team that still feels like, yes, they're like still where they need to be, but they want more, and I don't think that they have enough to have that just yet. And also, like,
Yeah.
talks about the roster changing and things like that. You have no idea what G2 want to do as of right now, but for my mind, I think Navi's floor is just too high that I think that they should be able to get past.
G2 can very obviously pop off and make this a really close
Right, of
game.
course,
They
yeah.
have the ability for it. I mean, I think now we reached the point where we very clearly have seen that Blast London was a big fluke. Like
Yeah.
they very rarely hit that peak. And that's why I think Navi, as you said, the Navi floor is just a way higher. Also, I think with Navi in general, with G2 in general, I kind of agree with Annie. He won't be able to hear me agree, but
Oh,
um, he'll be back. I Unfortunately, I was of the opinion on the podcast I did with Henry and Dinko that you kind of just have to keep him. Like
yes.
for G2, for some players, you're replacing Monazy. Like, you've got massive shoes to fill. Not every team in the modern day of CS has their superstar as an AWPer. Less and less you're having your superstar as the AWPer on a team. So he's vaguely serviceable. I also wish he could be replaced, but I just don't think there's anyone better available right now to replace him. So
yeah,
that's my take on that one for sure.
It is just that thing of like, who do you actually like? I get it's some similar thing of like, again, like, who do you actually get, right? I mean, like, you have to get. I think if you're G2, well, the thing is, I would say you have to get someone who is going to be like, a guarantee. But actually, as we've seen with G2, they don't mind kind of taking a bit more of a gamble, as we saw with Matty's. Like, obviously, Matty's was.
Yeah, I got it.
Go on, hit me.
I got it. So you rescind Klim from MIBR after the loan is over, and you promote that guy.
Yeah, honestly, valid. I spoke about this recently with somebody was like saying like, I was talking about Klim. I can't remember who. I think it was maybe I was making a joke of kind of like, like teams looking for upgrades in general. And someone was saying, oh, but MIBR, we know what those buyouts are like, but it is a loan offer. So yeah, you are right.
Yeah.
And like, it was, I mean, I wonder how long the loan is, but generally speaking, they're about a year, and they got him in, I think it was October last year. So we'll see. Maybe they can kind of call
Cologne, maybe.
Yeah,
it's an option. I think that's a genuine option. I agree.
And Klim looks really, really sharp, and I think it's a worthwhile risk in a way.
More X factor than some pass, 100%.
Yeah, and some pass has just been so bang average. Like, it is one of those things, you get rid of some bias and get someone who's gonna give you like even like 1.05 rating. It's an upgrade, and some bias is like for the most part like scraping 1. You know what I mean? Like it's just sitting tight there. It's not good enough for somebody of his caliber in the past and somebody with what this G2 team needs. So yeah, Navi, and then we got the hard one. We got Foot Paravision. I'll start it off by going, I'm gonna go Paravision here.
I think I have to agree with you. I really do want Foot in the playoffs because I think like it would do so much more for their confidence. Like if Paravision misses it out, like I don't think anything wavers in their mind, and they'll probably be back to it at the next tournament. But yeah, I think Paravision, again, I have some issues with Beltranok here and there. I do think there are better anchors out there, but that doesn't matter when your core of Noda, Cello, and Zoe looks so good, like series in and series out. The floor really just the floor and ceiling of this team, more importantly, comes with how James performs, and James has been doing good enough in this tournament. I think he will be the better operator, and I think he'll show Symmetry who the better operator has been and always will be.
And I will say as well with Paravision, like one of the things, like the reason why I'm like kind of so strong on Paravision here specifically is not even really anything about just directly the head-to-head, but it's actually just because like Paravision as a whole, they love kind of beating down on teams below them. Like it's kind of like their thing. Like at the moment, like we're seeing them like going toe to toe with top teams, but like for the most part, when Paravision play teams that are like quote unquote worse than them, they actually just like don't struggle, right? It's very like it's very kind of standard for them in a way. They love kind of like noob stomping a bit in a very kind term. Obviously, Foot are far from that, but it's kind of their bread and butter of how they got to being in this point within the last 12 months. Basically, they were just shitting on teams that are like lesser than them, and I feel like they come in with such confidence against teams that are on paper worse than them. So that's where for Paravision, it feels like they get this like real like kind of extra 20% against teams where it's like we shouldn't be losing this, so we're gonna make sure we just don't.
Yeah, I've spoken about both teams quite a bit, so I'll just very quickly say bit of heart, most of head. I would pick Paravision. Lot of heart, bit of head, maybe Foot. So that sounds funny. Just realized how weird that sounds. Anyway,
love a
but
bit
yeah,
ahead.
Chat clip that.
Yeah, chat clip that. But yeah, put simply, I think I want Foot to win, but I think Paravision probably will. Because if you just look at how they play compared to how Foot play, Foot can brute force these wins and they look amazing. But if you just look at Paravision's game versus Furia today, like 16-14, 16-14 split, right? Like it's almost like the one bit of DNA that James has taken over from his VP days is that they are a little bit paid by the round. They don't go away quietly. They stick around. They be annoying. They grind these games out. And is Foot's mentality there for that after the choke against Mauer's map 2? They've bounced back from worse. We saw one in the previous tournament they played, which was a really bad choke. But look, I think experience will triumph here. Head says Paravision.
Yeah, very, very valid. So we'll see how that pans out, of course. The last decider games are tomorrow, and then we go in towards the playoffs, which should be quite exciting already. I'm looking forward to seeing how they pan out. But I think probably because we won't get another episode before this ends, overall, are we all going Vitality to as your favourites to win it here?
Yeah, I think pretty safely. I mean, I actually wanted to talk about them a little bit more because, man, I think initially with the first bit of the season of them creating this era that we're truly in now, I felt like a lot of these teams were close to them and, giving them some sort of competition, and they weren't
Yeah.
able to win that streak easily. But now I just feel like they are actually approaching that Astralis level era in terms of like the aura of it. Like I feel that kind of like strength from them now. I feel that kind of wow factor out of Zywoo's game now, which like of course Zywoo's like always been in those conversations, but I don't know. There's a certain sense of swagger that he has right now and like command that he has over the AWP that I haven't seen from him. I don't think like ever in his career. Like I feel like now he can go into any matchup and he is the best player on the server, like de facto. And it doesn't matter what the setting is, if it's in playoffs or if it's in a studio. Like all those like merchant comments about him, I feel like have been sloughed away, and that makes me like super excited to see like what he can do and how his conversation about his name kind of changes over this year.
Yeah, they for me, I think Vitality, like, just to give you an idea, like where they're at. Just remember, probably about a year ago now, we weren't really in the peak of the Vitality era at this point last year, were we? So we were still having conversations about who's the GOAT in-game leader. Is it Carrigan? Is it Glaive? Is it Glaive for his majors? Is it Carrigan for what he's been able to do with all these teams for so many years and propel them to the heights we don't expect? The answer is now just Apex. Apex might be the best in-game leader we've ever seen. Like, that's one of the points I made with Henry and Dinko. Like, I think it's just reality at this point, especially if they win Cologne. If they win Cologne and cement it, if they win Cologne and Singapore, fuck it, let's say both of them.
Yeah.
But I think only Cologne, it still cements Apex as the go to IGL for me. And yeah, what he's been able to do with the team is unbelievable. Even though Vitality are losing the odd map to teams in these Swiss stages, right? You just know that the real Vitality appears in an arena in front of a crowd, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would not hold it against Vitality at all if they, let's as an example, in a Swiss lose a 2-0 game against a Fury or a Mouse or whoever. If they lose one of those games in like an IEM format where winner goes to semis and loser goes to quarters, if they lose one of those, I could forgive them for that.
Yeah.
They make the runs in the playoffs. They show who's boss, and right now, yeah, it is a true era.
Also, I'll keep in mind that at this tournament in Cluj, you're having a pedestrian ROP, so you're not really having the ROP that's
Yes,
supposed to be
true.
like this
Yep.
all-time great rifler, and they're still smoking people. Like that should tell you the level of dominance that this team has and the amount of depth that they have. Like FlameZ, I feel like still doesn't get enough credit for as much as he does on this team because he is just that good.
I will also say, with FlameZ, I feel like it's one of those things when you're the second best entry, it's kind of unfortunate because of how good the first best entry is, right? That like it's like
and he'll never get any of the accolades,
yeah.
right? In the HLTV awards, he will never win Opener of the Year, maybe even for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, he's still damn good, and I feel like we should appreciate that.
No, I agree. I couldn't agree more. We can end it on that. We can move on to. We're going to talk a little bit about some more of the tier 2 lands. And we can kind of just run through these a little bit as a bit more of a kind of a broader topic because there is so damn many. But I'll get up this wonderful CS lands website, which was made by Roper, if I'm right in saying. It was he's a Finnish caster. shout out him one time. And of course, if you guys don't follow him, he's actually does some really valuable tweets. So if you're invested in like the esports scene, he's actually a guy that's definitely worth following from kind of the tier 1 all the way down. But he and some people he knew made this website, which is tracking a lot of the open lands in CS2, which you generally are kind of been labeled as like the tier 2 lands. And there's quite a few popping up. And if you actually look, I can just like list off the ones that are just in February, which is absolutely mental. So we've got Roman Imperium Cup 5, we've got D Esports Masters. So Roman Imperial Cup is in Portugal, D Esports Masters in Norway, we've got Meta Cup in Almaty, Kazakhstan. We've got Parkin Challenge Championship 1 in Denmark. We've got the My School Pro League in Kazakhstan. We've got Draculan Season 5 in Romania. BetBoom Rush B in Brazil, in Sao Paulo. We got Fire Counter Season 2 in Buenos Aires, Argentina. That's for just February, just for the end of this month. And then, obviously, as you're going towards March, there's way more that are all kind of coming through. It is mental how many like lands we were getting in kind of the tier 2, and we already saw from last year how valuable they are. You know, we had teams, you know, like AAB and, you know, all these kind of teams who were going to like Epic Land, for example, because how valuable land VRS points are. And you can see why we're getting actually pretty decent turnout in terms of teams to these lands, like, you know, for Roman Imperium Cup, NIP, BetBoom, Gentlemates, Hotu, Passion UA, Eyeballers, D Sports Masters, Metasport, AAB as well. We got Boss going towards that one too, which is sick. They obviously got that like funding round, a bit of support from the community to mean that they could travel abroad for the Meta Cup. Cybershock, Magic. If you look at Magic, they got some pretty decent players on that team. They look really solid at the moment. Namiga, Sangal, Parkin, Game Legion, BC Game, 9, Sinners, Ecstatic, Sashi, MySkull, Hotu, Cybershock, Sangal, Draculan, you got Heroic, you got FlyQuest, you got Bestia, you got Cybershock, Ents, Oromon, who, for those you know, like really decent Polish team, go quite deep in the CCTs. The Rush B1 in Brazil, Sharks, Red Canids, Marsborn, Odic, 9Z, Fluxo. I mean, like, there is so much CS going on right now, and so many, like, actually decent like tier 1.5 or just top end of tier 2 teams that are going, because essentially these lands alone could kind of be like that make or break territory for getting to Cologne.
Yeah, they are major qualifiers, aren't they, these days?
They're mini RMRs. They're basically
exactly.
mini RMRs.
That's kind of what we've said before. Like, both of us, I think we said, look, if we're not going to get RMRs anymore, heartbreaking, but this is the next best thing. And look, there are still many things wrong with the VRS. There are many things that could be rectified. There are many things that need tweaking. If there's one thing that I like about what the VRS does right now, is that if you do win a LAN as even an unranked team, or even a team in like maybe ranked 90th, for example, say you win a Draculan, that puts you in the mixer of like 40th to 50th, getting all these online invites. If you win, you'll get where you kind of deserve to be in the scene. Look, you might argue for a team like Big, as an example, winning 2 lands in January. They jumped from 90th to 30th. Best team they beat was probably Alliance. That's not great, but still, they won the event. And old versions of Big would be choking those events, right?
Yeah.
So it shows that I think the VRS is doing the right job of propelling teams who win these events, like whatever they might be, Roman Imperium, Draculan, whatever, propelling these teams to a certain level where it gives them relevancy. And if you win back-to-back, like Big have done, that's major qualification territory, right? Yes. And I think that really shows you that it puts you in a position where you deserve to be. And I love that about the land circuit, the little pop-up land circuit we've got right now. Look, as I say, many issues with it, but I think the teams who win these lands and the teams who make deep runs and these like sort of tier 1.5, tier 2 teams that will scrape an invite to Cologne, they will be there because they thoroughly deserve to be there. There'll be no flukes, in my opinion, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it also makes for some just really entertaining CS. Like this Roman Imperium Cup 5, I'm so excited for this because you get the debut of the new Passion roster, you get the debut of 100 Thieves on LAN, and then you have them going up against like good competition. You know, NIP, BetBoom, Fnatic, Gentlemates. Like these are no slouches. So I think for them as well, it's like a great gauntlet that, you know, if they lose to like the new Saw or like the new like or like to like the new Rebels and you see that happen, you won't be like, oh, you know, maybe they should be at the major because of the players that they have. Well, you know, now you have very clear data that showcases as to why they shouldn't be there. And I think that'll clear things up for a lot of people whereas I think in previous seasons we would have a team or two miss out, and you're like, oh well, they don't have enough sample size. Because yeah, I mean that's true. They would only have online tournaments to really play up against, and if they weren't able to qualify, then yeah, that does feel a little unruly. But now you've got tangible proof that says this team deserves to jump up the number of spots that they do, and if not, then you also have a very clear idea as to why not. So I think that this month is going to be very exciting, especially for like a lot of these newer teams that we don't really know everything about. Even for like teams like BC Game, like
Yeah,
now you're
true.
not playing up against like the Krakow level competition. Your highest rated team at the Sparkin Challenger is Gamer Legion, and that's a very beatable team, especially if you want to be considered like major caliber.
Mhm.
So, they got to put their money where their mouth is at this point and say, yeah, we can kind of wipe the floor with everybody that's here. But if they lose, then you're kind of throwing that into question. So, I mean, I think we get a lot of answers out of a lot of questions that we had for some of these newer teams too.
Yeah.
You can argue there are some like questionable ways where teams have got to a major in the past, like even the way Paravision got there by winning Bet Boom Landerland, or no, where it is Majestic Landerland, sorry, over Bet Boom. But look what Parry have done now. I can categorically guarantee you that Bet Boom's current team would not be making the run that Paravision are currently on right now, right? But maybe we got lucky with Paravision, but still. Yeah, like I just like it. I like it. It gives you a lot to keep track of, especially if you're a CS fan. If you're a fan of only tier 1 these days, don't be. There's a lot more if you broaden your horizons, and obviously as well, the online slop of CS that still exists. There will be lots of teams who are maybe a bit nefarious at that level, teams who are honest, whatever. It's a bit of a messy pool there. But these LAN games, we know how much is on the line. There'll be no funny business going on here. It's a great thing to watch and keep track of and learn more about these new teams coming through.
Also worth mentioning for the Parkin thing is that it's a slot in the CCT Global Finals, which is also, pretty interesting. So, win there is not only great for the VRS, great for all of that, but you actually get, an invite to a big ticket LAN where there's going to be some decent teams turning up for that, like a decent, a really good tier 1.5 LAN, right? A lot of money in the line. And again, a lot of opportunities for VRS. So it's actually a bit of a kind of a double whammy. You win that, you actually get another tournament off the back of it immediately and great VRS. So it's kind of like a real win-win. So that could be quite spicy. Another team I want to shout out, I hit the drop down, Ill Will at Parkin. That team actually looked like they're really cooking at the moment. They've been playing some good Counter-Strike. Definitely a team to... They're a bit of a sleeper team. I think people should keep more an eye out for them. They could be kind of spicy.
I agree, yeah. And also like a weird team to realize that can be good as well. Because I think, Seven Kick used to be a rifler. He's now an AWPer.
Yeah.
Nemanja obviously from Zero Tenacity. You got Haji, who's getting into a bit of the end of his career now, but still performing very well for that team online. I think I did an interview with Haji after a Nodwin Clutch series game, and he told me that like Nemanja had also had like really bad issues with his eyes recently, and he was still fragging really well and winning games. Apparently his eyes were like bleeding at one point or whatever due to some like weird thing with his some weird thing he had to get sorted at the hospital. So, and he still was fragging really well and leading really well, clearly. So, it's well, as you say, for like a tier 2 team right now, it's very very much a possibility to create some upsets at these lands. Ill Will is almost top of the docket for me on that list.
Also, I feel like this is a great redemption story for a lot of these players. I mean, Adam S, discarded from the Iberian region, Diha Haji with all of their international escapades, and Namanha kind of being like the talk of the town on Twitter for months at a time when he was on Zero Tenacity. And I think now is like a real chance to rectify everything that he's gone through. And if he has a chance to jump up in the VRS rankings with a couple of deep LAN runs, I think it'll shut people up very quickly. And I think the tune about these players very quickly changes as well. So yeah, I'm all for this team. That's awesome.
Yeah, but very quick mention,
90th, which is already like in 37th. That's a pretty big jump in terms of just
very
this year.
A very quick mention as well, Diha, we know he's a great player. Just want to give a shout out to Foster. They won Nodwin Clutch series with Foster. He was the main part of the team, and he got kicked. They got unceremoniously let go, even after the success that they had together. And he wasn't even doing that bad. Like, if you look at his rating and the roles he played in, he was doing totally fine. So,
well, he was confused.
A little bit
because
he was confused by it.
I saw his tweet where he was like, "I don't know the fuck I've been kicked, but I guess I'm free." Like, anyone need to sign me? I just won this tournament, by the way. If anyone wants to sign me, like,
exactly.
He was as confused as everyone else was.
Yeah, which is a shame, real shame for him, and it maybe does give me a little bit of a question mark. Like, is Deher going to be, as motivated as Foster is? Who knows? Because Deher's kind of been there, done that in his career, played in so many big tournaments.
Yeah.
So who knows? Just keep your eye on the team. Put it that way. I think
Yeah.
they deserve to be watched, I would say.
But yeah, just worth mentioning for those at home, cslands.com, like it's worth scrolling through. There is so many in towards March, even more tournaments that are coming up. Couple got Circuit X Pantanal something in Brazilian, which is in Brazil.
They have all the best South American teams, no? At that event, pretty much?
Cuiabá or something. I don't know how you pronounce that. I've definitely butchered it. I see an accent on the A, so fuck knows what that means. Got one by Eastplay, another Parkin, of course, which is another slot, another Roman, Imperium Cup, Birch Cup, Level Up Lund, Washington Open. I'm assuming that's meant to be Nostalgia, Washington Open, XP Series. I mean, it's endless. Like, there's so many. And this is just until, like, the latter part of March. Like, we potentially might already have, probably not any to that late, because I can't exactly remember when the cutoff is for Cologne, but it will be sometime, I'd assume, around April, maybe. Maybe I actually might be a bit late, to be honest.
I believe it is sometime in April.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there'll be like there is like a couple of tournaments that they've like bunched up like right before it. I haven't necessarily spotted it where it is, but there's gonna be like a huge mad dash at the end of this to try and beat the cutoff. So that'll be a really fun time in CS. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if we have anything similar, I know people might say, "Oh, Philadelphia shouldn't have all these EU teams fighting for a major at it," right? I mean, it was a little bit weird. I get it, but if we have anything like we saw at Frag with OG, Fnatic, was it 9 in the final? I think it was 9, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly, but if we have anything like that when you know for sure that if you win the tournament, you go to the major, whoever it might be in the tournament, that's fucking exciting, right?
It is.
So
it's our mini RMRs. I've just seen at Frag they've got a team called 6-7 Match in Labubu, so I don't know if I want to hate watch them.
I got one better for you. I got
love
one
watch
better
them.
for you. Okay, hold on. At Nostalgia Washington CS2 Open, you've got Imperial, you've got Voca, you've also got Chud Nation.
Oh, the boys!
Look out for my boys. Look out for my boys.
Who's on Chud Nation?
I have no idea.
No idea. I want to know who's on
Absolutely
6-7 Match in Labubu, but I don't know if I should be hating them or loving them, because it's kind of right up my alley, really.
very hard to know. Yeah.
But either way, should be pretty funny. But then the big thing is that, essentially post Cologne, this website is going to get filled up again. It'll be the same run of things, where we get
Singapore,
1,000 more tier 2 lands that kind of pop up, and it'll be the same mad dash, the mini RMRs, as we like to call them, kind of heading in towards Singapore. So yeah, in a sense, kind of exciting. But following that, Trav, there was something you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of talk right now about, we as between us three have spoken a lot to each other about how much we want to work these tier 2 pop-up lands, right? Like, we'd love to go to Portugal and work a Roman Imperium. We'd love to go to a Gdansk, for example, to work like a Birch Cup or something like that. But the reality is the funds just aren't there for these smaller TOs to pay broadcast talent. And that's kind of where I want to go with this conversation. It's quite a long thing that I've got written down here, so I'm gonna go for it straight off the bat here. I've written down this kind of thought about it all. Co-streaming and community streamers are good for the scene and to get more and more people interested in Pro CS. But we've reached a point where I believe TOs outsourcing tournament coverage is hurting broadcast talent. Example of cuts number 1 is this year ESL only broadcasted 1 match per round for the IEM Rio and Atlanta closed qualifiers, leaving it up to community casters to cover the rest of the games. Previously, for qualifiers for IEMs, ESL would run a B, C, and D stream to cover each match per round. That is something they've cut for this year. A different kind of example is recently, I had a trusted contact reach out to me about working in the Roman Imperium LAN to produce and cast their tournament through a sponsored stream, but it was cancelled because they chose other community streamers with millions of followers, supposedly. To top that off, Roman Imperium were asking community streamers €100 to cover their tournament. No, not the community streamer getting paid €100 to cover the tournament. You paying the tournament €100 to co-stream their event. Now, I think you both agreed with me that was a pretty dangerous precedent for us as broadcast talent, especially when we really want to work these smaller pop-up lands that are now so important to the scene. I think a shout out does deserve to go to orgs like BC Game and 100 Thieves, who have the money to pay casters to broadcast some of their matches on their channel. But it's only like 2 or 3 orgs out of the massive pool of teams that could maybe afford that. That's still not the same as casting a tournament outright, or whether that's online or in person. And I don't think, even though I don't think the top 4 TOs, Blast, ESL, Starlight, or PGL, would ever do this for any of their prestige events, but we could reach a point in the future where small online tournaments, like even like a CCT or a Nodwin, could say, look, let's employ only a producer and observer, run a clean feed, and let's say save as an example figure 20,000 quid on employing broadcast talent for a whole tournament, and then they can just give the rights to community casters who can cast in whatever language. I don't think that's a crazy thing to be concerned about.
Listen, one of the biggest things that I had when I look at the current casting landscape is like what you got Harry and Hugo, and you would say like Launders and Scrawny, and you would think like maybe they just came out of nowhere, but they didn't come out of nowhere. There was a big grind that they had across their career to get to the point that they did. There was a pipeline, right? I mean, you did
Yeah.
DreamHack Opens on a regular basis. There was a clear tier 2 circuit for these guys to like have kind of a growing experience to figure out whether they actually even wanted to work to each other in the first place. Both of those duos did always work with one another. They were split up multiple times, and it took time for them to figure out how they wanted to go about things. And now they are the best casters that we have in this space. And um,
Yeah.
I feel as though we kind of had that pipeline for a little bit with the ESL Challengers, and we had tournaments of that caliber that were circulating with our level of talent, but now that that's kind of gone away, and with that you kind of have to think about the future, because I don't feel like every caster is going to be there forever. You're going to have to find ways to shore up those lineups a little bit more and take chances on things to create a more dynamic product for yourselves. And what this does is it basically pigeonholes everything into one corner, and it doesn't allow enough space for these talents to develop. And I'm all for giving community support and showing that maybe these guys have a lot of gumption, and force themselves to be on part of these
That's how
broadcasts
I
for like
started
late
too.
hours, and yeah, and be there for a long period of time. But eventually there has to be a broadcast that actually has the proper protocols. You have your analysts, you have your casters, and you go about the protocols of what a traditional broadcast is. And that's how you kind of get even, audiences that like tier 1 to watch tier 2 games. Like there's got to be that certain sense of like familiarity that has to be there. And so I don't know. I understand that it's a little bit of a money sink to kind of get these guys on board, but I think that's a huge benefit of like the prestige of your tournament. And then again, you're helping the all aspects of the scene to grow over a period of time, not just one aspect of just the teams, because there are other aspects to this esport that I think that I hope we can potentially give a little bit more light to. I mean, I'm not saying like hire me specifically, but it's
Yeah.
just like I think that there are a lot of very talented casters within the scene
I think
that are being overlooked because of situations like this.
I think a very important caveat, by the way, is I think it should be mentioned. We're not saying, hire us, please. It'd be
Hi, Anne.
lovely. It would be lovely, mate. It would be lovely. But the point of this is like, I'm not trying to say community streamers shouldn't have these opportunities. Co-streamers shouldn't have these opportunities. They bring a lot of new fans to the space. Look at how much Owner Pixel streamers grown in however
Yeah.
short amount of time, right? I think it's very important and very nice to have. But you can have the community streamer opportunities while also still putting on maybe more streams and more giving more opportunities to actual casters to maybe work some of these smaller events. And yeah, as I said, community streaming is how I came through, doing ESEA Advanced, doing open qualifiers. That should always be the norm for every caster looking to try and make something for themselves. You should go through the the ESEA League open IP stuff and the open qualifier open IP stuff that's available. But yeah, it's we want that still to exist. We want you to enjoy yourself and want you to try and chase your dream, I suppose. But at the same time, for us who have kind of like done it for however many years at this point, for these chances to be outsourced to 100 Thieves streamers or Owner Pixel or whoever, right? Maybe big streamers like from a certain language, like obviously like Roman from Roman Imperium Cup. that removes opportunities when previously in previous years you'd see talent, English speaking talent, work these important lands in, in Portugal and wherever. So it's just a little bit of a shame, and the direction it's taking, who knows, could get worse for people like us. That's kind of the point I'm going with.
Yeah, I also think like it is not even just Counter-Strike related as well. Like I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with. I mean, I think Annie, you're a little bit more involved, or like you know a bit more about it. But with like League, like there's been this has been happening quite a bit recently, where it's been some of the regions are going to basically only being co-streamers. Like it is actually something that's becoming like a bit of a thing now. I mean, and generally, I guess like where I come in towards this, like, it's kind of concerning because for us, we've obviously been grinding out the tier 2 over many a year with like the waiting game for tier 1, which is ultimately what it is. Like I think Harvey puts it in quite a good way where he calls it like a dead man's game, right? You got to wait for somebody to kind of to leave, right? Which is it's just very, very standard. And we obviously, with how good the talent is at tier 1, like there's no way that any of us can say like, oh, I deserve to have that spot in a sense. So, you know, you ultimately understand that patience will pay off and you got to wait and the opportunity might come. But the nice thing is like, in the past, that when you are waiting for that, there's been so much going around that it's been fine. But if this is not the precedent where like going forward, it's any tier 2 LAN or anything like that feels like it would have some substance to like improve you as a commentator. Because like generally I think it's quite hard to like naturally improve being a commentator unless you get one or two things. Unless you either get in-person experience where then you learn about kind of like the comfortability of casting in front of a crowd or casting in front of, you know, or, you know, on an unfamiliar setup, which is a massive help. I think that's like really elevated me as a caster, having in-person opportunities. Or the other thing is big teams, right? Like, you know, working like the B streams like Krakow, for example, or you know, in the past for like Cologne and Rio or whatever, like those IEMs. That's where you can like level up your ability because you get like, well, just ultimately like a much higher level of Counter-Strike, so it's easier in that sense. But the fact that you get kind of like neither of it here, right? You've obviously got decent teams turning up to this, which means that the level of Counter-Strike is going to be quite good, but it's all co-streams, which is it is ultimately a cop-out. And granted, I know these things are expensive to put on, but at the same time, like the rates for like tier 2 commentators for like online work, it's not egregious to the point where it wouldn't break the bank. It is just naturally where a lot of these lands are looking and saying like, we can either cut costs here, or in the sense of Roman, we can make money here. Like that for
and
me
people will pay it. That's the worst
exactly.
part. People are paying that 100%. Like,
and that's mental to me. And like, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna judge them, but like, I will definitely I'll have a little smile when I see somebody co-streaming it and be like, you paid 100. Like if you get 5 subs, I will laugh at you. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a money sink there. But in some cases, I can understand why someone would pay 100. Like if you're like, you know, a big enough co-streamer that does get like regular daily subs in a sense, then yes, sure, you might actually kind of like make your money
break
back.
Even.
Plus, break even, or like, you know, plus also like, you know, the followers and the stream content and whatever. But like generally speaking, I think the big thing is what you're talking about is like, we've already had a few of these lands come up. Like there's obviously been quite a few that have happened. Like even I can look at this. They got a pass thing that we've had. So we had Istanbul land did have casters for that, which is really good. But I just saw it was like Copenhagen Games Week, for example. Like it was like, I think they had like a couple of games casted, and the rest of them were like either not streamed or co-streamed. Things like that, where it's like going for the future. Like if anyone wants to understand how teams have qualified to Cologne, for example, like there actually isn't games of casters to watch. You're watching people's co-streams, which I don't know. I don't think is like a good precedent. Like, and I think it is also kind of a dangerous precedent, like going forward, where even just for us in terms of like job security, it's like if it always moving to a co-streaming thing. And I'm someone who doesn't enjoy co-streaming really. I like watching games in my own time, on my own kind of like, you know, like in my own way, in a sense. So I'm not someone who loves like sitting in front of the camera all day and watching it, because I kind of like doing other stuff while I'm watching CS. So it's like, I don't want to be doing that, but it feels like it's getting to a point where it's like not becoming a necessity, but it's definitely up there. And it's like, I don't know. I think it's dangerous. I don't think it's a good precedent. It's worrying. I can maybe understand for some of these TOs that are coming up, like I'll give them credit, like the vast majority of these TOs that are like running these tournaments are new in a sense. Like Roman, D Sports, Meta, Parkin, all of these guys are new. Dracula do hire casters, so again I can give them all the plaudits for that. But you know, I'd say a good like 60% of these tournaments on this like tier 2 landscape are like new TOs in a sense. So it's a little bit of a thing to figure out, which you'd assume that over time they'd figure out like, hey, first one we'll just run and make sure it runs, and then after that it's like, okay, now we'll run it with an official broadcast and going forward. That's what you'd hope would be the natural step, but I don't know if it will be, because it might set the precedent of like, okay, the LAN's running well and the co-streaming thing works, so why would we pay more or change more unless a sponsor demands it? But why would a sponsor demand it? So I don't know. It's definitely a bit of a worrying thing. I think it's definitely potentially quite dangerous going forward. And again, for like people, if anyone had aspirations of like becoming a commentator, like it's already got harder and harder over the years. I think we all got in a quite a good time in quotation marks to like where there was still quite a natural pathway. Like all of our pathways kind of up was like, you know, starting on these lower tier events, working our way up, getting the challenges, the ESL Challenger Leagues, then to Challenger League lands and whatnot. Like that was like a natural progression. There was a natural hierarchy in terms of how you moved your way up. But man, I feel for people who are like, if anyone wants to try and get into it now, the only way they can do it is like be a co-streamer and then hope you make the jump from co-streamer to a LAN. Like that is surely like next to impossible. So yeah, I don't know. It's dangerous, and I kind of like echo your sentiments. Like I do worry looking at that. Like, and I will say as well, like, happy to sort of admit it that like for every single one of these LANs, I reached out, and basically all of them had the same thing, which was like, for casters, we're either doing casters in-house, which means like essentially like not actual casters, just people that they know or people that are employed by the companies as a sort of a makeshift broadcast, or it's co-streams. And like the fact that basically all of them are following this is kind of damning, because it felt like he's coming into the year when all these sort of getting announced, it was like, oh, this feels kind of exciting. There might be chances, there might be stuff opening up, there might be opportunities for us to get you know, experience under our belt outside of like the big tier events. But like actually when I look towards this year now, it's like obviously got my online stuff with like my ESLs and my you know, CCTs and whatnot, and then it's like, okay, I've got to like make the jump up. So you know, one day I could be doing like a CCT Swiss stage, and then it's jumping up straight into like an IMB stream, right? Where it's like, it'd actually be nice to have reps under the belt, especially LAN reps as well, because if ever they came the call up to work a LAN event, granted I know personally like I'd be fine, but like it is one of those where it is like on paper it looks like quite a big jump. It's like you're going from at home broadcast on low tier events kind of thing to like straight into working like kind of quite big ticket lands, and there should be more of a pathway there, but there isn't, because this is like a cutting corners angle.
Yeah, and the worst part as well, like you mentioned it, and trust me, I've been very supportive of newcasters who've DM'd me for advice and all this sort of stuff, right? So it's not like me saying, you know, leave my job alone, I want to have this work for myself. Genuinely, it's me saying, like, at this point, if you want to try and get into it now, you're going to have to be the future GOAT, I think. The future GOAT commentator to be noticed now. Because even CCT rosters are pretty full, right? Like, to get that breakthrough even into doing regular online commentary, as you kind of said, Neo, I think we got in just about in time to really make our name for ourselves in tier 2 and the occasional tier 1 event, right? So right now, if you want to co-stream, have the time to do it, absolutely have at it, especially if you're going to cast the games. That's when it's, you know, great for your practice and great for trying to grow your brand and your name value. But at the end of the day, like, you know, even I do quite a bit of co-streaming just to pass the time and to share tournaments with my viewers and stuff, and my community. So it's what I do to fill the time I'm not actually casting professionally for whatever online tournament it might be, or wherever it could be around the world. And yeah, I think, you know, I had to, for example, I got asked to do analyst work with Thunderpick last year. That was a big branch out for me, to do desk work rather than being a commentator. That's maybe what a lot of us, you know, Neo's done both as well. So has Andy, obviously. So yeah, I think we're having to branch out, and we were the kind of the last few to really make a name for ourselves at our level. So yeah, unfortunately, while I'm always supportive of new people trying to come through and saying, oh, you should do this, you should do that, you should cast these open IP games, you should go through ESEA League, getting up that ladder now is harder than it ever was before, and unless you've got the spare time to do it, I'd probably advise against it.
Yeah, exactly that. Well, we'll see how things pan out for, I guess it's most likely going to be the second half of the year with these kind of lands, whether that continues. But At least in the initial conversation is not looking good. Basically, all of them kind of want their own in-house or co-stream setup, which I don't know. I just don't think it's a viewing experience. And also, I don't think as well for a lot of these tournaments that want legitimacy, like one of the ways you get legitimacy is through legit commentators rather than no shade to people who
You can
co-stream,
make a clip go viral.
yeah, exactly. No shade to kind of people who do kind of co-streaming, kind of like full time in a sense, because there is a kind of a few that do a lot of these sort of events. But yeah, it is one of those where it's like I think it really helps a tournament become legitimate in a sense having that. And I think that's something actually Draculan did quite well last year. Like it was kind of a complete no-name thing. Initially, to me, when I saw Draculan, it seemed like a gimmick. I was like, slightly strange name, whatever. But like, it quite immediately became a bit more of a legitimate tier 2 tournament because of how good its broadcast was in that sense. And I've already
It's at a bar in Romania, right? Like the Nexus bar or whatever it is. Like it's
And I've already watched a few of these kind of tournaments, like and kind of tuned in at times. For half of them is as well, it's like even finding a stream feels quite difficult. But then because most of them aren't even in English. And then finding if you do find it in English, it isn't like an actual broadcast. It's like I don't know. I don't think it helps the argument of trying to become legitimate in that sense, because if people tune in and see co-streams, they're not. I don't think in my mind that's immediately how I look at it. It's like if I tune in and see that there isn't actually an official broadcast, it is all co-streams. That's sort of like what feels like a reflection on the tournament itself. Like I think the way co-stream should be a supplementary, not primary, essentially.
Exactly.
And I don't know if that's how these tournaments think, or if because of the money issue is where their minds are kind of going immediately. But we'll see. I think inherently can be quite dangerous. It can be a really bad precedent paying to cover a tournament as well. So yeah, we'll see how it pans out.
Also, as well, like that one thing I mentioned is I did give an example figure as to what tournaments could save by not hiring broadcast talent, but it's not that far off. If you think there's usually duos, let's say absolute bottom of the barrel rate for an online event we do, and I'm happy to say it would probably be $100 per BO3.
Yeah,
is let's say that's the bottom of the barrel figure. Add that up as for times that by 2, obviously, for your duo, and think about how many games there are in a series. That money adds up quite a lot. And it does get to around that sort of 10, 15, 20k mark after a few of these online series. So one day the worrying thing is TOs might look at that and say we can save money there, and people won't care about online tier 2 CS like that, and they can just do it through co-streaming. So yeah, it's tough. We hope it's not the case. We just want the experience. Would love the experience of going to flying to a country, even if it's, say, if we even have to, obviously not ideal, but say even if we had to pay for a flight ourselves or something.
Yeah.
So if we go into a nice country like a Portugal or Spain or any land in that sort of place in the world which we know has a nice area, especially Neo, you big fan of Portugal as an example.
Yeah.
We would love to go there just to experience the country and to just watch the games and cast the games, even if, as you say, it's not for the best rate in the world. But seemingly that's not the direction TOs are taking.
I will also say, just as a side note, as much as I agree, I do think also then there is a bit of a bad precedent of paying for your own flights out as well.
Absolutely, 100%.
That is the last ditch kind of thing. But it is maybe one way of kind of convincing them to offset some of the costs. But I think generally that also is potentially quite a bad precedent to set.
Agreed.
For the future.
For tier 2 events, you can maybe understand it, but it should never ever be the precedent for anything above tier 1.5 to tier 1 events. 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it also, when these have 25,000 euro prize pools, then they can afford to pay the £82 return flight. Is ultimately how I look at it.
Exactly.
But yeah, I guess if we're done there, that is sort of, I think that's basically everything we kind of wanted to touch on, really. Yeah. So we can end off by saying, what have we got coming up? I guess we've got probably let's say roughly a month until we do another one of these. So what's next month looking like for everyone? Paladin, what you got?
Nothing too much. The traditional ECL will be starting in a couple of days' time, so that'll be exciting to get back into as far as South America and North America is concerned. And then I'll be going on an India tour through March, so I have a family wedding to go to, and that'll be a lot of fun. I'll be there for a couple of weeks, but yeah, looking forward to that. And yeah, that'll probably take up most of my time anyways before we do our next episode. So yeah, once that's done, we'll be back to CS.
There you go.
pretty similar for me. It's mostly Nodwin online stuff.
You're gonna be in India too?
Whoa, you guys should me up.
See you there, buddy. See you there. But yeah, I'll be same sort of tournaments, same sort of lineup. Got Nodwin online stuff, got ECL South America lined up, which I think is the same region as you, Annie, this year.
Yep.
I've got again more CCT probably coming up as well. And despite everything we've just said, there's a chance that I might have an opportunity to actually do a little bit of the Revenant Imperium stuff, but through, as I said, like through an organization, so through 100 Thieves, there is a chance that I'll be able to cover their first game against NIP. I think with Lucy, because Brandon is going to Epic LAN, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy called me up for it. 100 Thieves apparently putting on a stream, and yeah, there's a chance I will be able to cover some of their games, some of their debut tournament, which is going to be really fun. I'm really excited to do that if it comes through. It's right now only conversation. I'm hoping it's pretty much locked. But last time I thought something was 99% locked, it wasn't. So you never know in our space. Either way, if you're watching 100 Thieves opening debut on LAN, I might be there on the 100 Thieves stream. So very excited.
There we go. My side, standard online stuff coming through. You know how that is. I might actually swing by Epic LAN. It's not too far from mine, so I might go down like Saturday night into Sunday, but that'd be super, super last minute if I do it. And that's whether I can be bothered to like get a hotel for that. But I might potentially swing by because I don't think I have anything going on potentially on that Saturday, but then also I might just sack it off and just stay home, play our credits. But apart from that, I'm gonna check now calendar wise what I've got. Let's see.
Let's add us playing squash to your calendar right now.
Next week I can. Yeah, got a bit of CCT, got a bit of ECL, got a bit of Nodwin coming up. Got one event, like a more like tier 2 event that's like not announced yet. But I will be doing that. But keep eyes peeled on Twitter. You'll probably see the announcement for that at some point, and maybe some other stuff. But waiting to hear. But that's how it always is. We're always kind of like it's the permanent waiting to hear angle. But so far so good. I'm pretty chill. So can't complain all too much. But I guess on that note, we'll end this. Thank you very much, ladies and gents, for watching. It's been a pleasure. Of course, if you're new around here, go and check out the guys. Twitters are on your screen and down below. If you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Twitch, you know what it is. Follow. I don't fucking know. You know how it is. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure. See you next time. Take care.